you might have more knowledge than us because it's quite a new thing. We're sort of delving into at the moment, so we're only like beginners kind of thing. And it's more like we've got more like practical-ish aspects to it. So like
is anyone a secret connoisseur of water?
We'll be back.
H2O now. Well, we're kind of like.
Yeah, it all did start with a conversation actually. We were just discussing things and water came up and we were like, you know, can you actually define the colour of the water? And so that just is what started us getting into it. It's like, what is water? Like, is it more what it's contained in? Is that why it's that colour and stuff like that? So what we did is we started to look into things more. And
so it's like with the glass of water here, when you look down on to like the colour of it, to me from here it looks like a silvery white kind of. It's an odd substance where you can take in colour and sort of absorb it, but then if you turn the cards upside down,
it looks better when you look kind of directly over the glass because it's kind of like a magnifier. So if you look down the centre, you'll get the direct colour of the card. But obviously you know the water's green. But then if you flip the card over, you'll then put the glass back over it. It's totally different again.
or is it?
Two, we need to put one side.
I mean, we were going to get like.
Yeah, it was meant to be actual glasses, but we had a bit of malfunction. And then it was the blue ones, and then we're like, I think it's just blue.
Rebecca saved the day with wine.
So, obviously, the wine glasses. Yeah, it might just be interesting to play the video just to kick things off.
Water is discussed in chapter 1 of your textbook, which accompanies this series. Please ensure that you have your copybook at hand, as you'll be asked to take down notes from the screen at various points throughout the program. Water. Delicious, refreshing water. From ocean to sea, to lake, to pool, to pond, to puddle, to drop, to drip. Water, chemical symbol H20, is all around us. It's the giver of life. And it's there with us from our first cup of tea in the morning to our nightly bithuting. But what is water? It's a difficult question because water is impossible to describe. One might ask the same about birds. What are birds? We just don't know. But we do know that water is the most powerful substance on Earth. And whatever form it's in, be it ice, vapour, or just water, it has the capacity to affect whatever it comes into contact with. Ruined.
So that's a bit of a funny video. But yeah, we were interested in how water as well is used in such sort of a capacity to create that kind of power and sort of how it could be used. And so it is like it can be contained, it can, like it's a massive body, or is it a natural, or are we containing it? So then we sort of started thinking about what it says there about the seas and the oceans and how they're different colours. There's this green, there's this brown, there's this blue, and
and it's kind of like, you know it's water just because what it's contained in. So you know it's the ocean because you can see the beach, you can see whatever's on it, you can see the skyline, so you know it's the ocean. You know it's a lake because of its surroundings. And it's like, how do you define water as just what it is if you don't have its surrounding body? Because that's the only way you can really say what it is because what it is contained in. When you look at it as a singular thing, because even though, say, the container here is still contained in a container, you've still got the outer edges. If it was possible just to have water free, how differently would you look at it, and would you necessarily know it would still be water? So that's why when we were looking at kind of the ocean things, and obviously with the previous video, it was just, how do you really look at it? So we went to...
And then ice as well, that's a whole different kind of concept. You can dirty water, you can put ice and you can like hold it, and that's water in your hand, and then you get mist, like it's everywhere, like, and then science a bit.
Science behind it all.
So, and we were then interested in how like sort of water can reach into water, colour can reach into water. Sorry, and so you get that sort of feeling why water is a certain colour in certain places because of depth and stuff like that. And I really like this picture on the left. It's like a window.
So it's quite interesting, like, obviously the deepest light that goes from water is blue, and typically yours kind of, even from a kid, you automatically colour water in as blue, so if you're doing the ocean, it's like, well, why is it blue? Obviously, you know, because the scientific why is because of reflection, but also how far the light passes through. But it's just like how you represent colour, like you've got the box of water. So if you were to try and just look through the water now and define what colour it is you see, what colour would you say it is?
Bear in mind the definition at the beginning was colourless. Well, you kind of want to put a colour to it, which is quite interesting for me because you want to define it. You want to kind of have that. Well, I do anyway. Like I want to have that kind of. I can locate a colour in it, but we normally. It's hard. Like with these cups here as well. Catherine's got one of the blue cups there, and I can say, oh, it's blue, but it's not. It's the container that.
Being blue.
Yeah. It's kind of like reflecting, refracting, and sort of.
But it kind of receives colour from the environment.
Yeah. And it's got this water's got this thing where it can absorb it, but you can also repel like colour and light, which is an interesting kind of sort of. The water has these two very different ways of working, but like they're opposites. But yeah, well,
Like when you put a coloured screen over like so yellow. So from my direction and Ed's direction, the water now looks yellow, but from your guys, it's still the same. So for me, if we were defining it opposite, we'd say, right, the colour's now yellow, but you're like, well, no, it's this colour.
So it's slight tints, hasn't it? So it's
Yeah,
kind of reading the colour through different
it's like when you move
points
around it,
of
like,
things that are outside it.
Mm.
Or in terms of its reflection.
so like you can even put second colour in. It now means from your guy's angle, you might say it's more blue, but still for Ed and me on this side, it's still yellow.
I suppose that's also with the container that's in. There's the perspex. It's
Oh yeah,
So-
you should stand up and look
refracting,
different points.
and then even from the top as well, you'll get this kind of odd sort of amalgamation of colour bouncing.
kind of expected the colour to go green. I know because it's the blue and the yellow, I thought, oh, somehow they might mix or come into contact and the colour will actually change to the green, but it doesn't. They actually still keep their own colour.
When you look at it from the top, the blue, this sheet disappears.
Oh yeah, it does. It's like it doesn't even exist on the bottom bit.
I think with like refracting of water as well as a sort of as it comes in at one angle, like then bounces off at a different angle. So like when you get into a pool, it looks like you've got really short legs. So you're like trying to look at it from the wrong angle. It's like
But also stops in a sense of space as well, doesn't it? Particularly because when you're standing under there with the repeated reflection, kind of where anything was quite uncertain.
Yeah.
I think as well with the light is low light and bouncing off the bottom of the surface of the water as well. You kind of get a sort of blanket of colour above. And who was it that was telling us about? I think it was Stuart Tate was saying that there are rivers that water can hold like a density as well. Like there are rivers underwater where you go into a cave, you're swimming underneath the water, and then suddenly you can then go underneath another set of water, like
Yeah, it's to do with salt water into
fresh and
Fresh
salt water.
so it's
And
the density.
so apparently you can swim underneath kind of a sort of a blanket of water, which is amazing, and I want to do that. I think that's, and then obviously a rainbow as well. There's this kind of spectrum of light that's created through refraction and water in the air, and we're I think we'll say more about it later, but how you kind of depict water in art as well. How a rainbow, when you were a kid, you just kind of scribbled it, and it had that in a drawing, that 2D-ness. There was like sort of physical. It was solid, but then it's not. It's moving. Like you can never find it because there's like it's the way you see it in the sort of air as well. I think. Most of these are like pretty rudimentary slides, so but what was this bit? Yeah, so the rainbow is caused when light is being refracted and entering the droplet and then reflecting in on itself around it, and then refracted again and then leaving it. So I think that's really interesting that the smallest droplet can like contain like light and like as much as a big container here or the ones on the table, and bubbles therefore, and then just using it within sort of a sculptural element. Then if you use water, do you call it sculpture? Do you sculpt water? So this is Alpha Eliason. Anyone know it? Yeah. So like, I think using water as well in art, you kind of get this. I was going to say fluidity, but that's kind of stupid. The fact that you can. I don't know. It's like an everyday, isn't it? Like
Yeah. It's weird. It's because when you use that context in art, no matter what it is, you can represent it in so many different ways. That can be so ridiculous, but it will still be water, and obviously the viewer and the person doing it will still know it still be water. But then if you use it more directly, Because like, isn't this like water vapours and then it's like coming through, is it?
I think it's like falling. Yeah. And then we were kind of really interested in how like other artists have, like, because we're not painters or sort of we kind of more 3D physical kind of people. So it's like looking at how water's been depicted throughout sort of connotations or just like through pictures like this, and how you can get that sense of water as a force, and how it can like and getting movement as well into it. So here there's a great wave of Kanagawa, and what do people think?
It's obviously it's hard to. This is like a stop motion picture, isn't it, of a wave, and he's used it in very block colour. And obviously, as we've just seen by walking around, water isn't just that block wrong colour. And we looked for a couple of different people who have used water through their art and how they've all differently represented it. And obviously with, I can't say his name. Yeah, it's Wick. And it's just interesting why, when he thought of this painting, he thought, right, I'm going to have a solid, solid white, solid blues, and that's the way I want obviously to represent it. And at the end of the day, we still know it as a wave, we still know it as water. And then when you look at the next one, same thing. It's still saying body of water, different place though. But just because of its surroundings now change and the artist viewing it, it's a completely different. So that the other painting, it had like the bright blues, the white, and now this, it's just so much darker.
It's like how light then activates kind of a movement in it. So with how light then reflects off the surface, and then even how like Turner's like kind of painted, so you can't really see it, like sort of to try and get that sort of translucency of the sort of shallower, the sort of less deeper sort of aspects of the water. And it's interesting that then you see the sky, like with seascapes, especially you see the sky and the water as sort of mirrors of each other sometimes, but obviously when it's waving, rocky seas or something like that, you get this disruption in water as well. Like, so if you you kind of see the light in sort of different areas, and it's sort of interesting space. As well, like dark water as well, like this kind of sense that water at night is black. So there it looks really black to me, but whereas in this one looks calmer, and it's sort of obviously the way that he's painted it. Anyone got any thoughts on this one? Or what?
I think maybe something that's useful to talk about. I think what the range of examples you're using is really interesting. It's also just useful to think about the different cultural spaces that those are coming from. So what these kind of be aware, you know, we have to sort of make some account of those things. But yeah, I think it, you know, it's interesting. You know, I'm curious there, you're talking about the kind of the indecipherability of the wave, you know, there's a bit in the middle towards the back, which I'm reading more as a mountain than a wave, but it's got this, you know, it's got the same, it's the same sort of rendering.
But it's kind of like, is his depiction then of it more correct than say the painting after it?
I don't, but maybe that's, for me that's the sort of question I'm less interested in, what's a correct rendering or...
I don't know, but it's interesting that they're all from very similar period, like the Hokusai and the Turner. It's like, the Turner isn't much earlier than the Hokusai, and the Van Gogh is a combination of both, in terms of like, that kind of the cultural emergence of those languages. So we might kind of, in the Hokusai, think like that kind of graphic language is something we can read. And the way what Charlie's saying, like, you know, the mountain in the back is, as a sign, it's exactly the same as the waves, but we know it's not a wave. So Hokusai does this kind of near-far thing with that sign, and we're able to make those, we're able to sort of layer those interpretations onto it. And it's very subtle, those sort of little shifts. But what I was sort of thinking about when I saw these films is the first one. Do we feel like we're more enclosed in it or involved in that?
No.
Yeah. Or do we feel kind of equally outside of all of them? Because I'm thinking about water, about this sort of like being in it.
Well, it's interesting because, well, like, I don't know, through childhood, you go through like watching cartoons and stuff like that, and you have that image in your head that that water is this solid block. So with this painting here,
I think, yeah.
I sort of see this.
Maybe.
I get more of a sense that that's water to me than say the more realistic ones. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Is that representing, is that more of an idea of water?
yeah, like.
Representation.
But what's also interesting is that this image here is then used as an emoji, and I've never noticed that before. Like that's the iPhone wave emoji. So these depictions of waves and water sort of are then reused, but then your mountain's been taken out at the back. So maybe that wasn't a true representation of water, or wasn't a...
One quite interesting, now you've brought that up, so I've noticed that as well, and obviously an emoji is a representation of an emotion, I guess, just like in a character form. What does that piece of work, what's that trying to say as an emotion? Like that, like, so it's a very iconic painting.
Yeah.
And that's why it's kind of being brought as an emoji, because it's very much like everyone, well, I guess a lot of people will know that image, but what's it trying to say? If you're texting someone in a sentence, why would you use that image? For me, it's something like devastating, something happened, like everything's crashing down on you, like that's when I maybe use that emoji. And maybe that's
So do you get that sense as well in the painting?
Oh yeah.
Like if you send that painting instead of the emoji to someone, would you use it in the same context?
No, I wouldn't. No, what would you think?
See, the emoji is kind of much more kind of like, oh, we're on holiday or something.
Are you for real?
Really?
Oh no.
Where are you going on holiday?
You're on a surfing holiday, right?
Whereas the kind of like, the kind of Japanese kind of painting is kind of much more
But would you not relate them both?
engulfed.
I mean, like, if you seen that on your phone first, would you have related it back to the painting that originally came from?
No,
So that's a really iconic piece of work.
I wouldn't. No,
Because like for me, it's like devastation, like something really bad happened, and I send that wave, like a wave of emotions come over, or something like something's crashing down.
But aren't they so diverse anyway? Like when you send an emoji, it's always like a hyperinflation of how
Exactly what I mean,
actually is.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. so like you could use that like I'm going swimming,
Yeah,
you know, or yeah, I've just had devastating news, it's come crashing down or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so diverse,
So
it doesn't really matter actually.
Plus the emoji sits within another like a whole another language of like the emoticon kind of they all sit together so, and they're all quite playful and light-hearted, so you wouldn't necessarily put the two. Yeah, they're all.
So like, obviously this one, these two here aren't emojis, but yeah, the two water droplets ones. Why would you send them? What have they come from? A painting as well?
Maybe in that sense there's something to be said about the use or the reason for using water as a motive
Yeah.
illustration or something.
Yeah, and like kind of like we were interested as well how they used like sort of the emojis and the emoticons this kind of thing as so water. When you think about water, what do you try and picture kind of thing in your head?
Water, in kind of psychoanalytic terms, in dream, water is supposed to represent emotions. So if you dream about being swept away, or have a dream where there's flooding or dripping, or it's supposed to represent emotions.
I think for a lot of music as well, a lot of lyrics in music do use water, and I suppose in a lot of film as well, it's supposed to represent sorrow or something like quite somber or loss by something being taken away.
So I read water into dreams as well, and it's meant to be, it's kind of a platform of transition. So when you see like more than you being physically in the water, and if you see like depict water as the body, it's more like a transition from one place to another or one stage, which is kind of like, can be seen as like in an emotional way as well, but also like physical. So it's kind of like use it as a bridge, but my kids really nice.
Because everyone has this kind of like relationship with water as well. With like people can swim, people can't swim. You have a fear of it. You have a sort of an ease with it. You can get in the bath, but obviously if you're afraid of water, obviously people still get in the bath. But and I think there is that kind of emotional kind of side to it, or like that relationship to it as well. It's like so seeing the crash of waves, or just seeing a really small wave. I'm at the beach, and so like with the squiggly line up there, that's the Egyptian letter for N, but I think it's like water or equivalent, the equivalent of N, through some kind of translation, over 2,000 years or something like that. But the water ripple, and so. And then we were just, I was sort of interested in the fact that it goes like that, and then in swimming baths you see that same. So what are they trying to say? Are they trying to say NN? Or sort of, I think we both have, I can't remember what that was.
Is that the?
Oh yeah. I think we should.
Yeah.
So it's like what?
Yeah, because obviously with the discussion we was having, I was thinking more back to kind of childhood, and I was never allowed to play with water as a kid because I was too messy. But it was like when you'd be in school and you'd have the big water tank and it'd be like, right, it's time, you can go play. I remember trying to put my hands in the water and pick up this water and then being like, now it's a different colour, so I was physically trying to scoop up this object that I thought I could catch. So I thought the same with clouds, but that was devastating. And so it was just this weird connection, like how come I can see it, but why can't I pick it up and physically hold it? And then obviously it'd melt away through my fingers, and I'd just be left with these droplets and not the colour I thought it was, and it would just be this kind of confusion. Kind of way. And I was just quite interested in what you said then before about being in the bath and swimming, and how when you do go underwater and you open your eyes, it's not clear and you can't I don't know if it's the same for everyone else, but when I open my water, their eyes into the water, it's just, I can't, you just get like the blur of kind of image, and it is weird, like, right? I know there's obviously scientific reasons, obviously, for that, but you can't physically see through it, but how come when you look into it you can, but when you're submerged in it, you can't, kind of thing.
I suppose when you near the sea as well,
The mass is awful.
and like how water also has a what I was saying about that kind of that relationship between you and water, you get smell of water as well, or in different places. So for me it was chlorine. Like water had this horrible chlorine smell when I was younger, and then it would put me off drinking it because or like because you'd always like be in like sort of taking in water when you were swimming, and then go home and drink a glass of water and you'd be like, oh, it tastes rank, it's not got chlorine in it, or like that kind of allows sort of I swam a lot when I was younger, and kind of just being that sort of submerged. It can hold you away, it can sort of release you from outside world, and it's kind of like got this protective body to it, where it will sort of, I don't know, like kind of, it'll creep around you, it will like encase you, but you're free to move within it. And I really like that, by the way. That was that kind of movement in it. I mean, I did a few animation stuff like this. This isn't ours, but
Yeah, where did this come from?
well, we kind of tried to do this in a really sort of rudimentary way, where we just found. So all our references are just off some guy on the internet in 2016. But this just found YouTube footage. But it's kind of like in the sense that you can inject water with other liquids or other substances, and it's like kind of.
We tried doing it with milk and water, and it was not as good.
Yeah, so we tried to recreate something like this for the poster, but like then we just decided that clear glass water would do.
I think like what I've been kind of talking about is, I think in kind of in a computer aspect is water sort of like a canvas.
Yeah.
This environment of to kind of project onto and reflect back from.
Yeah. And I think.
That's actually a good way of.
I think. This piece as well.
I really like how you said the water is the canvas.
That's what, sorry?
How you said the water is the canvas.
Yeah, it's like a surface
Yeah.
for everything else around it. Because in terms of the colour of water, kind of going back to the kind of original inquiry, I think that like the colours of water is defined by its conditions
Yeah.
or the environment around it or a position around the water. Water itself is transparent, but it's reflective around it.
Did you find this on Facebook?
I think it was like a
Yeah.
Facebook video.
I watched it a couple of weeks ago. It was really weird.
Especially because of watching this, it was like, oh, it's just trying to put the ground on, and now he's adding the, the top bit of the birds.
Just marbling.
Yeah.
And like what I was saying earlier about this sort of the density of water as well, or liquids in sort of general. The fact that when you can put what's oil, is it oil in vinegar or something like that, where you can put your finger in it and go kind of like it just moves like around and creating the kind of layers of liquid and colour. And sort of manipulating what
something that starts to, as you're talking, and I think there's lots of, I mean, I'm curious about this, and I'm trying to figure out kind of what this is in terms of the studio, in terms of your practice, and I guess it kind of is quite just an open sort of curiosity about water. So I'm now kind of thinking, okay, well, how are you starting to? Have you got a kind of a sense, because we seem to be talking to two different spaces here. One is kind of thinking about water as a medium, and the other is thinking about water as a material.
I think the fact that this is more like a shallow exploration of it. So it's kind of like we'd obviously go into a deeper exploration into one aspect of it. So we said at the beginning that we want this to be like a more of a conversation about what people think water, liquids.
Because I guess that's for me what I'm starting to find interesting is actually starting to think about water in two different states. You know, one is its potential as a medium. You know, and the things you're talking about in terms of light. You know, its interaction with light, colour, through light. All of the things here are dealing with it as a medium. So it's not the thing in and of itself, but it's a medium through which other things, phenomenological things around colour, around light, you know, those properties of light that are exposed in terms of refraction, reflection, and then you've got water as a material, you know, so its potential as a material, and I think those two things give you slightly different opportunities.
Yeah, and I think it's quite interesting as well, because like with the two of us, one of us could think something completely different about how the water works than the other. So kind of bringing those two together as well is kind of interesting. Like not just seeing them as two separate ones, but actually sort of fusing them together, mixing them. And I mean we've got the Bill Viola piece. Sort of like, I know it's kind of like an amalgamation of just a bombardment of water based.
I think it's because what happened was we started with one thing and it was mainly the water through the lifetime thing. But the more we looked into it, the more we kind of just kept finding out this and finding out this and finding out this. And it was kind of like trying to include it all, if that makes sense. And we're trying to really try and focus in and really pull it all together when it's really, you can't, because it is so different and
Vast.
that, how it seems. So I think when we tried to do this, it has been difficult because you'll be looking at one thing and I'd say another, and then I'll look at it and say another thing, and then it was just kind of this roller coaster of going on. And
I think water is a metaphor as well for an artist's practice. Do you think works quite well? Like you have to be fluid, you have to be open, you have to be sort of loosey-goosey, kind of. Sort of this I can't remember what the word I had in my head. And the way that like research works as well, like how we went about doing this presentation. What it was like water. It's kind of like it just kind of all seeped in to the same thing, and like the internet, how that works, how you can just kind of go from sort of Wikipedia to Wikipedia to Wikipedia. I mean that's people frown upon looking at Wikipedia, but it's there. It's water. It's a river of knowledge kind of thing. You can go like internet as a stream and stuff like that. I think what water is just interesting. It's just interesting. I think.
I think in terms of collaborative practice, water is quite a dense a lot to look into. I think we're looking at like, liquids and solids at the minute as well. And obviously, kind of talking about painting, but also sculpture. How do you represent or use water in something that's sculptural? And I did some work on that last year as well. I made like a water bed thing, that really like the water on wheels. That was about transparency and colour and kind of fickleness of both materials I use and what we can what they do and what the beer does to it. And I think at the minute, I think for me and Vic, we're looking at kind of how to make something that's transparent and blue and fickle into something that's solid. So we're looking at different mediums to work on top of water. So I think for artistic practices are a lot of them sort of painting water as a basis or liquid as a basis for other things. Mixing paint, for example, made liquid for that. And powders and a lot of mediums. So I think last night me and Vic were making jelly for making a sculpture. And so we're looking at we want to make something that's transparent, but out of a material that we haven't really thought of yet, but we wanted something that also creates movement but isn't as set. We want something that's got that kind of fluidity and has like the potential to go back to its original form. So we're thinking about movement in that kind of sense, as well as the fragility of material itself as a solid. Should I bring over an example?
Yeah.
Well, what we made earlier.
You've got jelly.
Yeah.
It's on the fridge.
Yes.
So it's funny to try and talk about the colour of water and the colour of transparency, because this is supposed to be clear jelly. It's really rock solid.
So is the colour changed because it's in the container? Or
No,
have you taken
this was the clear gelatin that we used.
Have you taken it out of the container?
No, I'm too scared.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
See, I looked at it when we were doing this. I was like, can you fit in water? Because I was trying to think like, oh yeah, if you take it out of the container, can you hold it? And then I was looking at how you fit in water, and you get those kind of Yahoo answers kind of thing, and they're all coming up with all sorts, but they were all saying, it's really hard to keep it that clear.
Yeah.
This always does. It does change it because you are adding something else.
Yeah, there are different ingredients and recipes that you can use to get it crystal clear. I guess clear as water, like transparency, but that was just the gelatin we used. It was pretty gross. It's kind of the same. It's like it kind of reminds me of rabbit skin glue.
It is rabbit skin glue.
Yeah.
So it's gelatin.
Gelatin
Yeah.
is rabbit skin glue.
Or you've given it a form, haven't you?
Yeah.
It kind of loses its intrinsic qualities of.
Yeah, but once we
it
take it
becomes
out.
there's an object.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like what can we do to that's not just representational of water, but also still kind of hold up the new once we take it out of its container, because that's just to mold it instead.
It's like a poached egg.
Yeah, and it's contained
Like-
because it's about the shell. It's like
Yeah.
it's the shell of its container, so the container is just as important as the object, even though the container will no longer be present once it's set. It will
Yeah.
kind of be just as kind of important on the piece of work.
I think with the poached egg kind of idea, that's one way you spin it, isn't it? Is that one?
Yeah.
Like it's then moulded by another liquid.
Yeah.
You crack the
And
egg
by the
in.
movement of that.
Yeah, and the movement. And I think then you have eggs weird as well, like, 'cause that's got the rubberness, but then it's still the liquid inside. You know more about eggs than I do. That's a weird thing, but she does. What you're saying about how it does take the shape of the container. And then the water as well. Here as well, it's a sort of a cuboid of water that's still liquid or like.
That's an intrinsic property of water.
Yeah.
It has to have a container. It needs to be, you need them to see its so these are sort of curious other sort of paradoxes as such. But
I think that was brought up. I think have you just they talked about it a few minutes before you just come in about the rivers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like
But
different containers and different
Mm.
environments mean different kind of attributes of water. Like that's how they're defined.
Maybe we'll just have to go to space and drop water in space, and then maybe that's the only time you'll see, because obviously, because of the gravity, doesn't water just stay?
I was also curious on the kind of connected to that. I was curious about what you were saying about the translucency of water, this idea that we can see through it. And you're saying, well, if we're in it, like if we're in a swimming pool, then we can't, you know, our visibility is shifted. But I'm also kind of thinking, well, you know, generally here we're looking through a bottle or a glass, we're looking through a very small amount of water. You know, if we were looking through a much bigger volume of water, say the volume of this room, even if that was in a container such as this, you know, then we wouldn't have such a clarity. What you sort of talked about, the clarity of view, that kind of clearness wouldn't exist. So the depth, the volume of water is massively sort of influential in terms of its kind of opacity, and it's sort of almost becoming into this state where it starts to kind of feel more physical material than liquid material. So I guess those are sort of curious about those things.
But it's an interesting thing, isn't it, whether you need to contain it to represent it. And it's an enduring thing that people, within art, people represent water, whether it's the images you showed. I mean, I'm thinking of Hugo van der Gogh's in the 15th century. There's a really clear vessel, and it's a kind of little tiny still life within a massive altarpiece. It's a beautiful little still life. And thinking of sort of Velasquez with the water on the side of the water carrier's jar, or even Hockney with the shower, the biggest splash. I mean, there's so many examples of representations of water in art, and maybe taking water into space is one as well. Maybe that's a piece of work that could be done. And I wasn't aware of the emoji, so that's kind of an interesting contemporary symbol for water. I've never seen those things before. So I'm just kind of curious. The question I'm thinking of, if we went away and made a representation of water or liquid, what would it be? And then how are other meanings embodied in it? Obviously, for the 15th century painting, I'm thinking of water, the clarity of it. It has a religious connotation to do with bathing and cleansing of the souls, etc. I don't quite know what water means in Hockney shower, but it would have a definite meaning for him. And I don't know what you know, for Bill Viola, for example, what does water mean in those pieces of work? And if you're going to use it in practice, what does it? What's it for?
Well, I think isn't he using it to kind of to just sort of see like the religious side of body form as well, like, and that light, and like it's interesting because I'm doing a film piece at the moment where this is kind of like, this is what I want to kind of see, but I'm having to think about how I want to represent it with maybe not using water, but it being water. So him being like it's going to sort of be a child suspended in sort of in a big tank of water,
When
but without it being water.
we spend the first certain percentage of our lives suspended in amniotic fluid.
Yeah.
As a species, partly the colonisation of the earth by human beings was achieved by spreading around the coast. So once we kind of evolved as a species, the story goes that those human colonisation went coastal rather than doing land crossings. I'm not sure whether that's true, and obviously it's just not something I've heard and come across. I've not researched that. But I like the idea that we have a proximity to water.
Well, it's in the air, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I'm from the coast, so I definitely have a, when I go to water, when I go to the coast, I have an emotional response.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's because of growing up on the coast, or whether it's because of something in us as humans. But there must be something, because you're talking about it, and it's in art. There's images of it in art.
Yeah.
And you're also curious, you're also curious about it as a material. I think that's
Yeah, and I think
that is really important. That's really interesting, and that kind of sits that sits in a different trajectory of thinking rather than about kind of a generation of meaning in a particular way through kind of image or representation.
I think that as a material as well, in its like when you say natural form, like as in where it is in the world as well. So by the sea, it's used as a medium there, kind of with sorry, I'm going back, but with the Van Gogh piece there, like the sort of reflection, and then that's the same place, but it's poor quality, but they're still using it as a piece with reflection like that. They're using the body of water as a sort of medium in itself. The city, I think, like obviously the painters from, well, we did kind of just look at these kind of few painters from around the similar sort of era. They were seeing that water as an interesting way of I don't know if they were just wanting to depict water or not, but like with that one, if you turn it on its sort of side, you get that kind of mirrored, and so he's seeing it as a mirror, silver sort of surface.
I was thinking of it was really late waterlily paintings. I was just might sometimes think see them in the flesh, but there's very little painted. The water is very painted, but there is some indication of reflection and a suggestion of vegetation of water influence, but so there's late ones in the background of what's not painted, but actually kind of is the sense of watery surface.
Yeah.
I was also thinking about, we talked a lot about trying to get to some essences of what water is. I don't think it was many and facts of it. But I was also thinking, I've been sitting here looking at, you'd know I do, so don't you? Tarkovsky's films, Andrei Tarkovsky's films. So you were touching on this a couple of your psychoanalysis and dreams, but not been talking about emotion, so much about the emotional psychological way that water can be used as an image or metaphor. Well, all of Tarkovsky's films, there's a lot of water in. Everything's wet, isn't it? It's really wet. It's also a sensory thing that I think it's evoked from the films. But they're also kind of, they create psychological spaces where we can kind of accept change, an idea of change and flux, and shifts in space and time as well. Just by panning into a
I think that's really interesting.
Place with objects in.
Yeah.
Then we're immediately shifted into quite another kind of realm that's not, we know isn't quite factual.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because it's making me. I went to a talk yesterday which was about light and darkness in relation to the landscape, and looking at it, thinking about it from both of those directions, from illumination and light, and also darkness, and the darkness not actually being, our eyes are actually very good at adjusting. So even when we think about pitch black still, once our eyes have adjusted, we still have very good visibility relatively within that. But in a kind of a darkness space then, and where you have illumination through things like stars and moonlight, then something that was talked about was kind of puddles of water on the ground, you know, how luminescent those become because of the light. So again, it's how the light, you know, coming back to this and coming back to the kind of scientific property, is how light is then reflected and refracted through that, even if it's a very shallow pool of water in a kind of a tire tread mark. Yeah. I think, you know, connecting that with what Sue's saying there is really, in these kind of works, you know, we start to think about water as a mirror surface, so that, you know, these are direct plays on a double image, the multiplication and pluralization of image, and that luminescence that we get in that moonlight, that kind of intensity through water starts to become like a mirror surface. But also then these are things, you know, the way that artists interface and work with mirrors, and there's kind of, you know, one of the kind of primary usage or kind of primary opportunities of mirrors, people like Smithson were really interested in this, is where the mirror becomes a portal into another type of space. And I think this is the space of water, this is the space of Tarkovsky, this is the space of this kind of interested and reflected image. So
That's just like the surface.
Yeah, it's what
Like-
that does. It's about, you know, it's about how something can, you know, we're
It
always
lets you into somewhere else.
Yeah.
But
you know, so the mirror or the water surface as a portal into another space, that as a psychological space, a real space, an imagined space, all of these.
I kind of see it as a veil. Like, I think that's what I've talked with my mentor at Tyneside, is that the water, once you go underneath, is the veil of kind of that portal. You kind of shut off from two different spaces,